Welcome back to another episode of Pole Position, the podcast. We are really excited today because not only has so much changed in the month since we last recorded, I'm also joined once again by my co host, Bryan Loomis. And
Hello.
after a brief break, we've got Raf Stitt back. Not only is he back, but he's back from repping Screen Age Wasteland at TIFF. If you don't know what TIFF is, that's the Toronto International Film Festival. So yeah, Raf, wanted to touch base with you immediately about your experience in Toronto. What was it like? What was your favorite film that you saw there?
So, one, I just want to say I did listen to the pole position episode that you guys did with Val, and Val was great and probably a lot better than me. So, you should definitely have her back on because she's awesome. But Tiff was also awesome. I was waiting to reveal it, but I've got my Tiff 50 hat on that I
Oh,
picked up from the gift shop there. Toronto was awesome. It was really cool. It was a really fun experience. It was awesome to be there representing Screen Age Wasteland. I only went for 3.5 days, but in those 3.5 days, I saw 8 feature length films. I saw 6 shorts. I had about 15 lattes. I ate approximately 25 croissants. I had 4 Guinnesses, 2 martinis, about 8 gallons of popcorn, and I didn't fall asleep during any of the screenings, which I thought was kind of an accomplishment. So that's kind of the quick rundown of my time in Toronto, which is a very, very, very cool city, by the way.
Did you have a
wow.
lot of? I know when you saw what was it? Wake Up, Dead Man. You mentioned there was no like director Q&A. Did most of the other screenings you saw have those?
Yeah, pretty much not even pretty much every other screening that I went to had a Q&A with the director and either some producers, at least one star of the film, which was super cool. Uh, but Wake Up Dead Man was the only one that did not have a Q&A. I guess Ryan Johnson hates Toronto for some reason, too much of a hot shot, but it is what it is. All the other Q&As were awesome and really cool.
Nice. So, you saw a couple of different things there. What coming back is the movie that stuck with you the most as your favorite of the festival?
So I didn't get to see a lot of the big players. I didn't
Right.
see Frankenstein. I didn't see Hamnet, although I almost kind of snuck into a Hamnet screening. Um, I guess at film festivals, my one bit of advice, and maybe someone at TIFF will hear this and not invite me back, but if you just walk around with like a bit of confidence, people will really just like let you walk wherever you want to, which is probably true in most places in life, but felt especially true there. So I didn't see Frankenstein, didn't see Hamnet, didn't see No Other Choice or a lot of the other big players, but of the movies that I did get to check out, a movie that premiered at Cannes, which we spoke about a little bit after that festival, was My Father's Shadow, which I thought was actually really spectacular. Some really cool direction there from a first time director, I believe. I don't know how much play it will get when it comes to Oscar season, but it should be something that is considered will be on like I think will be on a lot of people's top 10 lists at the end of the year, things like that. I thought that was probably the best of the 8 feature length films that I saw.
Gotcha.
Very neat.
So it sounds like nothing that you saw really has a huge amount of Oscar buzz, um, or Oscar potential. Well, you did see what probably the two things you saw with the most Oscar potential, right? Would probably be Wake Up Dead Man and Nouvelle Vague.
Yeah, so I think of the things that I saw, there are 5 movies that have potential for like some categories. I don't know that any of these are going to necessarily be actual contenders for Best Picture. Nouvelle Vague could be something that gets nominated for Best international or foreign language feature. The only thing is that we know that France is kind of weird with how they nominate films, and I can't see them nominating a film by an American director. Like, they're not going to say, yes, we want this dude from Austin, Texas to represent us, the great nation of France, at the Oscars. Um, and I think there are other, like non best picture categories that some of these films could end up getting nominated for.
Gotcha. Well, we may circle back around to some of those as we continue this discussion, but I'm excited to get into front runners, and I think it's exciting because we have, in my opinion, we have a four-horse race right now, maybe with two of those kind of sticking out, but um, this is mostly going to be a look at the fall festivals. But we have one movie that just so happens to be getting all the buzz right now that's not at festivals. Um, I want to talk about One Battle After Another. Um, you know, people had asked, one of the questions was, how do we think Sinners is tracking compared to like Everything Everywhere all at once? And honestly, I think these social media reactions to One Battle After Another remind me more of Everything Everywhere all at once. There's just such a huge immediate passion from people in the industry for this movie. And a lot of times you take early social media reactions with a grain of salt, but this isn't from like user PTA I'm DTF 69. That that one- that one would be like, okay, of course you're gonna like a one battle after another. Now, this is Steven Spielberg, Ryan Johnson. I mean, Joachim Trier, who is got one of these other four horses in this race, came out superlative about it. I mean, and there was a lot of passion for Sinners, of course, too, when it came out, which we'll talk about. But I feel like this is snowballing into maybe the front runner in the race, which is crazy because we entered festival season, of course, like we've spent so many months now where it's just been like Sinners and Sentimental Value, the two movies to get locked for nominations, and like the two front runners. Um, and now One Battle After Another has emerged. What do y'all think about the One Battle After Another reactions that we've seen so far?
Excited. I wouldn't say surprised because PTA is very, very consistent at putting out high quality movies. So this feels like the critical consensus feels like it's like top tier PTA as well. So that's very exciting. Um, in terms of Oscar chances, I'd say it has another hurdle to clear, and that's box office because it did get a very large budget. And so expectations for it will be rather high at the box office. And so if it bombs, then that maybe changes the narrative around it a little bit, but then there can be like a critic backlash to, oh, nobody went to see it, but we want to claim this as like the one. And so that can still sometimes work, but it's obviously better if like a lot of people see it and it gets the community bump from being like a buzzed about movie, similar to like Wicked last year, where like everybody was talking about Wicked. It was just in the culture and conversation. I don't know about this one, but it could uh could do very well. I mean, it's got Leo in it. It's getting a big marketing push. I'm gonna go see it. I'm gonna tell other people to see it. But we'll just have to see because you never know how these things with the larger budgets and no like IP are gonna play out necessarily.
What are
Yeah,
you expecting? Yeah.
I don't know what I'm expecting. It seems like it has a lot of elements of like other movies that we've seen perform well at the Oscars, sort of lining up There's one, the fact that it's a PTA movie, and like Bryan said, we know that PTA is very consistent in putting out extremely high quality films. And when you have a bunch of critics and other directors early on saying that this is another spectacular movie from him, it's kind of unavoidable at that point to, say that this is something that's going to be nominated for Best Picture. It had a brief moment of like a weird organic online marketing thing going for it, where it was like there were a ton of memes about the title one battle after another. Not quite to the same point as like Barbenheimer, but almost reaching that kind of level of just like online memification that then sort of like drums up more excitement for the movie just because people want to participate in something that feels like a shared experience that a bunch of other people are having. And then you also have the like cinema nerd, um, the like presentation of the movie, right? And that it's being shown in Vista Vision in some theaters, and also they're doing like IMAX 70 millimeter prints in some places. And you'll remember from like a few months ago, that was huge for Sinners making as much money as it did. The video of Coogler explaining the differences between the different formats was like massive for that movie making as much as it did. Um, I also think that there was part of that that went into like The Brutalist having the success that it did last year.
Yeah.
And then the third thing or the fourth thing would be that like when this movie is released and what Bryan was talking about in terms of like box office potential, like I do think that it needs to make a lot of money in order for it to sort of be pushed over the finish line, or that would be like the thing that like really solidifies it as a super strong contender. But it's being released at a time where there aren't a lot of other movies that it's competing with. The marketing has been, I think, a little sneaky in terms of saying like this is a action movie for dads, and we know that it's like probably not actually going to be that. So we'll see if people are disappointed or if they show up and they're like, oh, that's not what I was expecting, but that was still a really great movie. But I think because it's sort of being released at a time where there aren't a lot of other things for it to compete with, if it does have good word of mouth, if people are excited about the different formats that you can view it in, if people are just like, hey, this is a great Paul Thomas Anderson movie and like Leo DiCaprio can put butts in seats, I think it has like a lot of things going for it that can obviously lead it to being a serious contender for one of those four horses that we were talking about in the Best Picture race.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
tracking, I just looked up the tracking and it's not great. It's like 15 to 20 million opening weekend. That would be compared to the budget, very rough.
I you know, I think it can so it could be a little bit of a Killers of Flower Moon situation, right?
Yeah.
Where, you know, the Academy's like, it didn't hit at the box office that well. Of course, Killers didn't win Best Picture, so there's that. But,
Yeah.
it'll definitely get it's obviously locked for
Mm.
nomination at this point, I'm pretty sure. Um, and I really see it as the Best Picture frontrunner right now. Um, as far as, like, a populist pick, though, box office-wise, it is also very apparently wears its politics on its sleeve, which could be another, interesting element of its Oscar campaign, especially in the current environment. So we'll see how that affects it. But I think the industry wants to give Paul Thomas Anderson his flowers. And
Yeah.
I think Licorice Pizza wasn't quite enough for them to quite do it. So I think this being such a probably a top tier PTA, there's gonna be a strong desire to just give in and give him all the gold here
Yeah.
as possible. The other barrier, though, to that, is another movie that was at the festivals that Raf had an opportunity to see but didn't, because he didn't sneak in, and that is Hamnet, which is apparently an absolute force to be reckoned with. I mean, the reviews out of Telluride were crazy, and I was on Award Expert, which is the app where if you wanna follow along, you can put your picks in Award Expert, it's really great. Um, but I moved Hamnet up to number 1, as soon as those Telluride reactions reviews came out because it is they're so glowing. And a lot of people were slower, and they still have been. They've kind of clinged to centers and sentimental value. Um, but Hamnet is a force to be reckoned with, and now it's won the People's Choice Award at TIFF, which is a huge Oscar bellwether. People coming into TIFF thought maybe Rental Family had a shot because it was a premiere. Rental Family
Mhm.
ended up didn't even place, but Hamnet won. And so the fact that Hamnet is so devastatingly sad, but was still able to win the People's Choice Award, um, because I guess it's cathartic. I think it's going to dominate. Um, it's going to either be right behind One Battle After Another, or it's going for the gold. The one barrier to that, of course, being Chloe Zhao just won Best Picture like 5 years ago, won Best Director. So it'll depend on how the Oscars feel. I mean, if they have the chance to say we can give this back to Chloe Zhao again, or we can give Paul Thomas Anderson his first trophy, that's going to be kind of tough to overcome.
The
But
politics of that is always interesting. It it doesn't always end up going to what the best picture is or like who the best director is because of the oh well PTA hasn't won one and he's PTA and how could we give this person how could we give Chloe Zhao her second when PTA has zero, but if she made the best movie of the year then she deserves
Yeah.
the second statue.
for sure, but I think what it is too, if it's razor thin, if you look at these 2 movies and say, "Well, these are both masterpieces," then you definitely go down the line and say, and of course, there's also the matter of the fact that Best Picture is, uh, what's the word I'm looking for, Brian? Preferential ballot.
Yeah.
Preferential ballot. So, these movies might be at 1 and 2 on a lot of people's ballots. So it may come down to very few number of people who maybe don't vibe with Hamnet. Not very many people out there that don't vibe with Hamnet. Same thing with One Battle After Another. Maybe there's a few. Again, this is where politics
Mhm.
could play a role. A few people don't vibe with the politics of One Battle After Another and stick it at 10 on their Oscar ballot and drag it down just enough. If Hamnet is not so divisive, that's an easy way for it to win Best Picture. Because again, when we talk about these narratives and things, we talk about it like everyone's in a big group deciding what to honor when the reality is they're doing a ballot. So they don't get full control of that.
One ballot after another.
One ballot after another. That's going to be the name of our live
Yeah,
Oscar
episode
stream
title.
later this year.
Yeah.
Um, and I think this has so much potential to Jessie Buckley. Give her Best Actress now. I mean, she's won it. I don't think there's anything.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, in my heart, but also in the movie, apparently. I haven't seen the movie, but Jessie Buckley is
I mean, we all
wonderful
know
and
Jessie
everything.
Buckley's incredible, and then the reviews of this are like that she's incredible. And I think that Paul Mescal is going to campaign and lead.
Hmm.
I think he's going to campaign and lead actor and win. So that's my hot take. A lot of people still have him in supporting, but enough people who have seen the movie say he could easily be a lead. There's not really they're not even talking about category fraud. They're just saying you could really fit him into either one, and it would be kind of
Yeah.
understandable. And he's
Feels
really
like a
lead.
pretty clear screenplay favorite at this point as well. Because of the quieter drama nature of it, that'll play well in adapted screenplay. Lighter adapted screenplay field than original screenplay field this year, I'd say, which is a little unusual. But then, yeah, if it's got screenplay and actress and Mescal campaigning as well, that's a pretty strong resume. And you start to stack up those awards, and
Oh
it
yeah.
seems like you're going to win Best Picture. You know.
Not to mention the fact that it will also be somewhat competitive, at least nomination wise, in the crafts categories. Raf, you didn't get to see it. Did you? Were you hearing? buzz and chatter about it from people around you at TIFF at all?
Was I hearing buzz and chatter? Not really. I didn't talk to anyone who saw Hamnet, so I didn't get any like firsthand accounts of how people felt about it. There were also, unless I wasn't picking up on it, I don't know that there was a lot of chatter around the water cooler, so to speak, about what people were saying about Hamnet. Just seeing and hearing sort of similar stuff to what you guys are seeing and hearing.
I think Bryan brings up an interesting point of adapted screenplay because One Battle After Another will also be an adapted screenplay. I think Chloe Zhao's adaptation is very faithful to the book. Apparently, Paul Thomas Anderson's adaptation is very loose and barely connected to the book that he's adapting.
Mhm.
So Bryan, you think that leans towards Hamnet's favor?
Yeah, for screenplay. And then I think you'd say maybe the opposite for director, that people are going to go for PTA doing something like bigger, more ambitious, less quiet, and being such a name and someone who hasn't been recognized at this point. So think you'd say, uh, I think you'd say if One Battle After Another wins screenplay, it will almost certainly win picture of the two of them. And if Hamnet wins director, it will almost certainly win picture, right? Because those would be the categories that, you know, would indicate overall strength, right?
It'll be interesting if One Battle After Another wins adapted screenplay and Hamnet wins best director,
Then it's a
or
toss up. Yeah.
or vice
Then it's a
versa.
toss up.
I could see Academy voters in their own personal ballots trying to mix it up because I don't think they want Chloe Zhao to go home without a trophy for Hamnet. I think they do
Mhm.
probably want Chloe Zhao to win something, maybe just not best director since they gave that to her 5 years ago. They might lean towards PTA, but it depends. All Academy voters. So we say all this stuff, and then some Academy voters are like, "Well, I
I'm
liked that movie."
I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm laughing at the idea of both of them losing out to like John M. Chu for best director. No disrespect to him, but it would
I
be
don't
funny.
think I don't think he's getting in there this year. It's too stacked.
It's
Yeah,
it's
that's
gonna
too
be rough.
stacked.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
rough.
I'm
So
just I'm thinking of funniest possible outcome,
That would be that would be it. That would be it.
but it would
moving on
also
to
give
our
the PTA hive that much more pride. I think that PTA fans do take a lot of pride in. He's only won for screenplay, right?
That sounds
For
right. There Will Be Blood,
Magnolia or There Will Be
maybe.
Blood. Okay,
Well, no, that yeah, No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood would have been adapted that year.
yeah.
That was a stacked year, dang. Um, I don't know. Has he won a whole lot?
I
Somebody
don't know
look
if
it
he,
up.
yeah, but
Um,
he's one
he's
of those
been
directors where
nominated a
like
good bit. He's well respected by the Academy.
he's one
Um,
of those directors where his fans kind of like take pride in
yeah,
him not winning all the Oscars, so it would just
yeah.
add to his legend if even if it is, Chloe Zhao, but if it's John M. Chu, then it's that much funnier.
there's a review of One Battle After Another that compares it to No Country for Old Men with a satirical shriek of Doctor Strangelove, and I mean, just sign me up.
Yeah,
um,
that's my jam.
so now addressing the what has been claimed by most people to be the front runner all season. Let's talk about Sinners.
Mhm.
So Warner Brothers now has a huge Best Picture player in One Battle, and now they have Sinners, which is probably either probably third to me, third or fourth. I think Hamnet and One Battle right now are the two at the top. But, you know, what do you see coming out of this for Sinners? I think we've been all over the place all season, just people in general, over whether this thing is going to like sweep awards or if it's going to end up with just a handful of things. I think it's personally, I think it's going to get a lot of nominations and only just a couple of wins. What do y'all think?
I'm starting to think it's going to end up going down the Barbie path, where it's easily one of the best movies of the year, but because of sort of the genre that it's working within, it doesn't get taken as seriously by Oscar voters. So it will get all the nominations because it is an incredibly well made movie. Should probably get a screenplay nomination, maybe some technical awards for like cinematography and editing and things like that. Will most likely get a best picture nomination, but won't really win anything. Might maybe win one, like maybe it wins score, and that's about it. But will be
Yeah.
recognized in terms of like getting nominated for a bunch of things. But I just it's still a horror flick. It's still about zombies. Um, I don't think that that's necessarily something that the Academy is going to take all the way seriously. Whereas something like Hamnet, Sentimental Value, One Battle After Another, these are more aligned with like classic Oscar kind of movies.
Yeah. I think I buy the genre, it getting pigeonholed as a genre thing, and like you were talking about, Jacob, with the preferential balloting, you end up, with 20% of best picture voters don't like horror movies or thought Sinners was too scary. They put it towards the bottom, and then it sort of, even from just that 20%, that can make a big difference if it's towards the bottom instead of in the top four. That said, I think Warner Brothers is big enough and experienced enough to run two movies pretty easily. I'd say it's firmly in the top four for Best Picture at this point. It does have that community groundswell. It did really well at the box office. People are still talking about it. So I don't think it should be forgotten. I think Coogler's going to get in there for Best Director. Um, because you have the narrative enough of came out of the Marvel machine, made something original, took a risk, and it paid off huge. Like that's candy for Oscar voters. They love that. So I think you've got. I think he's probably getting in there for that. It probably won't get a lot of acting. It'll get some technical love, could win some of the technicals, but yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily it's a. I would say it's in the top four. I wouldn't say it's leading or in the lead. I think it is like you were saying, pretty ambiguous. What's leading at this point?
I think so. I think it's going to be very difficult for it to win picture between One Battle After Another and Hamnet, especially when you throw in sentimental value as another potential disruptor toward its ballot. Um, Kugler, I do agree. I think he will probably get in director at this point, but that field is starting to get very crowded and very hard to tell who's going to be because Paul Thomas Anderson and Chloe Zhao are basically in now, and then you have three spots, and you have some of these films we're going to talk about soon. Some of Neon's other films in their pocket, and then you have Marty Supreme that's still on the table.
Yeah.
That a lot of people are thinking will be kind of top five, but it could just flop and make this a lot easier. Um, but I think Ryan Coogler is one of those that could stand to fall out of the director race, depending on if they do a Denis Villeneuve type deal where his movie came out earlier in the year but I don't think it's going to be the same because I think it has a little bit of a different support that you talked about, and he has that masterpiece scene to really latch onto from the movie, but it's so crowded. Someone's got to fall out. Who knows what they're going to do as that becomes even more crowded. But I think it's in competition for original screenplay win with sentimental value, probably, just because these are the top four horses. Hamnet and One Battle are unadapted, so it has a chance there. I still have it predicted at score right now. I also think it could win sound if they don't, if they're not just like some people, like the community still has F1 winning sound. because you know
Yeah.
because it's a good sound
Cars.
movie. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Oscar voters might just be like F1. I mean, let's give it to something that's a little
Uh,
more, you
Instead
know.
of best sound, they should call that category most sound because that's how Oscar voters tend to vote. Whatever has the most sound
Cars or a
wins.
war movie, you're a lock for sound.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, which makes it, it's interesting because One Battle, not a lot of people are talking about this, but I wonder how competitive One Battle might be for sound. We'll
And
see.
score. Johnny Greenwood's back, baby,
The
and
Yeah.
score
it
is,
sounds like it's gonna be a banger.
well, it
My
is
boy is
apparently.
cooking.
And you know what else though? People were thinking maybe Hamnet's score would be ineligible, but I think it's going to be eligible. I think, and Max Richter apparently has put together a very moving soundtrack to go with that. So we're gonna have it's gonna be cooking for score. But now I think Sinners still has maybe the leg up in that regard, just because that movie is also musical. So it's kind of got that extra kick to it, and it's been talked about so long. But again, Johnny Greenwood's score is getting a lot of praise. Max Richter's score is getting a lot of praise. It's going to be, I think, Wicked too. I think Wicked for Good score is going to be eligible. But we'll talk about that later.
Did Zimmer do the score for F1? I think he did.
Yeah,
So that might unfortunately take a place, even though that's a very lackluster score.
yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Um, so Sinners craft categories. I mean, it's going to be it's going to be showing up in a lot of places. But there's some craft competition too that we'll talk about soon. Um, rounding
Imagine
out
if
the top.
Kaczynski gets a nomination for director.
That's so
Yuck.
far. He's so far down the line now. Um, talking about number 4, on the list here, Sentimental Value, still one of the most, hyped up movies, one of the most beloved movies from Cannes, even though it didn't win the Palme d'Or. It's Neon's top horse. It's got a lot of opportunities. Rewind. I need to say one more thing about Sinners.
Hmm.
I just don't think Michael B. Jordan did enough to really be in lead actor. It's a really weird situation, for him because he's got this 2 characters, and you don't normally face with that situation in lead actor, because he's got technically 2 performances going on. But if you count that into it, I didn't really feel watching Sinners like that much great differentiation between the characters that I mean, he did a good job in the movie, but I don't feel quite like he belongs in that race. I mean, he could sneak in the back end, but it's starting to get a little bit crowded, and I just don't see it. And then Delroy Lindo was great. Maybe he could get into supporting actor, maybe Miles Catton, but it's such an ensemble movie. It's hard for me to see any of them quite stepping up to be enough in those acting categories.
It seems
Right,
like Sean Penn locked in Best Supporting Actor like months ago when the first screenings for One Battle After Another
yeah,
started.
he's the big. By the way, I have Sean Penn. I actually moved Sean Penn to my predicted winner for Best Supporting Actor over Stellan Skarsgård for sentimental value because I moved Paul Mescal to lead. Um, I have right behind Paul Mescal, I have Leo. I mean, I think the buzz for Leo is starting to be like pretty good. And in supporting actress, check this out. I have Teyana Taylor right now in there. And I also, honestly, I actually put Chase Infinity in. I have
Mm.
two because people are raving in general about the performances, and supporting actress is so weak. I was like, you know what? Why not? People have been talking all season about sentimental value having two supporting actresses, Elle Fanning and Inga Il. I don't know her name off the top of my head because it's like Norwegian. but but they've been talking about that all season, and they've kind of been a little tepid about it too. Like, they could both be in, but I don't know which one they're going to go for. But One Battle After Another has so much good energy and buzz. But not before seeing it. When I see it, maybe I'll switch that out because there's also Regina Hall. So you just don't know. But I think Chase Infinity is more of the heart of the movie based on the reviews I've seen. So I slid her in there as well.
She might
Um,
even honestly like would based on what some of the things that I've heard, she might be the lead. Like she could maybe get a lead actress nomination. Um, I told you guys, when the first episode of this that we did, Tiana Taylor, best supporting actress, that was my big shot in the dark. And Jacob, it sounds like it might be coming true. We might be inching closer and closer to that being a reality. So,
Definitely, she's
uh,
gotten some shouts. My understanding is she has a little bit of a short. Um, she doesn't have a lot of screen time, but she makes some impact. Of course, last year we had Isabella Rossellini, who did next to nothing in Conclave and still was in the supporting actors. So um,
Have
it,
y'all seen 1001?
yeah, she's great in that.
Oh, she is so wonderful in that movie.
I've
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
So
trailer
big
only, but
believer in
I've heard great things, including from
talent.
Raf.
If
Yep.
you watch her in that and then like know that she's being paired with someone like Paul Thomas Anderson, who has such a great knack for pulling out amazing performances from people, especially people who you would not expect amazing performances from, Adam Sandler in Punch Drunk Love, Alana Haim in Licorice Pizza, like he's the guy who can pull really, really, really spectacular things out of sort of people who we don't expect it from. And you watch her in that and then know who she's being paired with in this movie, and it seems like the perfect recipe.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So on sentimental value, there's just a really strong push for Joachim Trier. People have been waiting for one of his movies to break in. This feels like it for sure. It's Neon's main horse. They're going to get it in. Stellan Skarsgård is apparently amazing. Could be supporting or lead, but he'll probably. My theory is that him and Mescal will split. And so I think if Mescal's lead, Skarsgård will go supporting because I think he'll be competitive with Sean Penn in supporting. I think that will be a fun race to watch. And then Elle Fanning, I do have in supporting actress for now, but it could easily be the other actress. I haven't seen the movie. Um, Also, I have it in the lead for original screenplay currently. All of these movies that we're talking about are also in casting, I think. Um, Maybe not Hamnet, because Hamnet is already going to get Best Actress and Best Actor. There's no really need to put it in casting when it's basically a two-person movie. Although Jacoby Jupe has gotten some major praise as young Hamnet. I'm sure he'll show up in our Screen Age Wasteland breakthrough performances, and he could be in a supporting actor if people choose to. So so far Bryan is really sitting pretty because he's had one battle after another, and Hamnet and sentimental value from the beginning, right, Bryan?
I don't think I had Hamnet.
You didn't have Hamnet. Okay.
No, but I did
So
have sentimental value in one battle.
all
Yeah.
three of us have had one battle after another since the
Yeah.
beginning.
We're believers.
I had Hamnet in the beginning. That's varied throughout the season as I was trying to figure out what was going on. But I had Hamnet in the beginning, and Bryan had sentimental value in the beginning. Raph, did you have either of those? Do you
No,
remember?
my original 10 list is totally nuked. One battle after another, I think is the only thing that's still surviving
Well,
from that list. After
speaking
seeing
of
Nouvelle Vague, can confirm that's probably not going to be nominated for Best Picture.
right, and not Alto Nights, probably.
After watching half of Alto Nights, I can also confirm that that is probably not going to be nominated for Best Picture. After having seen Highest to Lowest, I can probably confirm not going to be nominated for Best Picture. Early
Well,
reviews of The Running Man with Glenn Powell, probably not going to be nominated for Best Picture.
man, what fun though. So, we're gonna get to brag on Bryan a little bit more because he made maybe a hope prediction that is coming true, maybe coming truer by the minute.
Mm.
If it can make it in, I know Bryan had No Other Choice from Park Chan Wook um, in his original 10, and that came up pretty big at TIFF, winning the new category of the International People's Choice Awards. Um, because it's new, it's hard to understand how that really plays out. Like, is that are people thinking that's second to Hamnet, or is it People's Choice first, then international. I don't think it plays that way. Brian, what are you thinking about the chances for No Other Choice and Best Picture at this point?
I'd have it in the like bubble tier, right? So we've talked about the top 4, which I'd have the same as we've talked. I think you've got another pretty firm tier of 3 or 4 that are likely nominees. And then you've got a bunch that are just on the edge. And that's where I'd put No Other Choice, just because Park Chan-wook's sensibilities aren't necessarily what the Oscar voters go for, and this movie sounds less like what Oscar voters go for than Decision to Leave. So I doubt it, but I do think it's pretty likely in international that it'll get a nomination. I'm just not sure about picture. It's on the bubble.
That is really interesting to me because after it won International People's Choice over Sentimental Value at TIFF, by the way,
Mhm.
not that that's end all be all. A lot of what I heard was maybe that it was a little more accessible than Decision to Leave. It's less of a mystery
Yeah.
box kind of deal.
I mean, it's less so it's more the, it seems like Mean Park Chan-wook is back a little bit, and Decision to Leave was very like character study. The I get the mystery aspect is maybe a little opaque, but it felt very like maybe more interesting to a broader audience versus something like, Old Boy or The Handmaiden, where it's like for the sickos.
Do we do we all agree that One Battle After Another, Hamnet, Sinners, and Sentimental Value are all like locks at this point? That they're all four going to be nominated?
Yeah.
Anything can happen, but they feel like locks. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure before we. So I actually have no other choice in right now in my best pictures, but everything outside of like the top six is kind of a bubble movie to me right now. That could be in the mix. I actually tentatively, and this is because of what I have in best picture, and it could change. I actually have Park Chan Wook rounding out my five in director.
Hmm.
Um, but that would change based on something we're going to talk about in a minute with Neon Slate. I actually have no other choice in adapted screenplay and international, and that's it. I don't have. I mean, some people are trying to say Lee Byung Hun is going to be in the actors race. I mean, that's kind of getting further outside of the academy's patterns. I mean, he'd have to be really spectacular. I think the movie would need to be like kind of higher up in the best picture nominees to get in there, especially if there's a crowded race. But we'll talk a little bit about some categories outside of best picture in a minute. Springsteen debuted at Telluride. This is going to be a pretty quick conversation because I think all of us still feel not that super excited about music biopics. But Jeremy Allen White is being pretty universally praised for his portrayal of Springsteen. It is a biopic that doesn't take the full life route as much. It takes more of a time in the artist's life. It's got some potential for some a supporting actor nom or so. I currently have that in because I think it's done enough for a
Yeah.
music biopic to get in. Is that what y'all? That sounds like what y'all are
The
feeling.
bar is lower for music biopics to get a Best Picture nomination, and this did well enough. The reaction was, "Hey, it wasn't that bad," and that is enough to get a Best Picture nomination if you are a music biopic.
I hope one day we get away from this. I don't think that it will be this year, but yeah, I'm so over cheap uh imitations of famous musicians being enough to get an actor a nomination. Do something interesting and introspective. Jeremy
This,
Allen White, you're capable of it.
yeah,
Well, if this had, um, if Michael had been in the race, it would be an interesting conversation
Yeah.
because I don't know that there would be 2 musical biopic slots this year,
Yeah.
with the strength of some
We're
of the
gonna
top.
have to do this all again next year. Are
Yeah.
you guys
Can't.
gonna see Springsteen Deliver Me from Nowhere? I don't know if I will see Springsteen Deliver Me from
I haven't
Nowhere.
seen A Complete Unknown.
It starts with us. We have to not support these movies and
I
not
Yeah.
pay
saw a complete
for
unknown,
them
and
in theaters.
it's it's so it's like aggressively okay. It's aggressively mediocre, which is
Mhm.
almost worse than something like Bohemian Rhapsody, where at least there's like it's laughably bad. A complete unknown is just it's just there. It
Yeah.
exists for no other reason other than to exist, and I fear that this movie is going to do more of the same. I did want to go back to No Other Choice, Jacob, if you'll allow me.
Yeah, of
I
course.
I do think that Park Chan Wook is kind of the first director out. It seems like he's the one who's going to be snubbed. It seems like he's the person when Oscar noms come out, there's going to be a lot of people online who are complaining about him not getting nominated. And to what Bryan was saying about this movie maybe being something more for the sickos, I will say, although TIFF is a very big and well respected and well renowned festival, it does seem like it attracts more sickos than something like Cannes or Venice or things like that. I think that
More
those are
sickos
like
than Cannes, where Teton won Palme d'Or.
okay, but there's a difference between French sickos and North American sickos.
Okay. Thank you
I
for
still think that Cannes is a little hoity-toity, whereas Toronto, the TIFF crowd, it's a little grungy, which I love. I'm one of the sickos too. I'm right there with them. I was there with them, but
They were raised on Cronenberg, you know?
yeah, exactly, 1000%. It is a bit more. It skews more sicko committee up in Toronto, so it's hard to know until like we actually see the movie how much No Other Choice winning Best International Picture there will actually mean for the Oscar race.
Yeah, because it didn't. I mean, it was tabbed to. Uh, People thought it was going to win the Golden Lion, and then that went to Jarmusch, which was very strange. Uh, but
Yeah, Venice
who
though.
knows?
Venice is
Yeah.
kind of weird in terms of awards. Venice is like, I still think Venice is going to have probably more of its premieres in the Best Picture lineup than Cannes, but that could, I mean, that prediction may or may not come true at this point. Um, but let's talk about, since we're in this vein right now, let's talk about the neon issue because they have 3 films that are in Oscar Best Picture contention. Getting 3 Best Picture nominees would be insane. It could happen. I'm kind of the opinion that it's sentimental value and either our Palme d'Or winner, it was just an accident or no other choice. Um, that they're gonna have basically 1 slot to pick whatever put our voters are gonna put one of those 2 movies in that slot. Um, Honestly, I know, Brian, you are more familiar with Panahi and that we've been talking about it was just an accident for a while. Do you think it was just an accident has a better chance than no other choice right now? Or do you think both would be in potentially?
I have. It was just an accident, a little bit above no other choice, because of the Palme d'Or win and the history of that award and the Oscars recently. Um, I think it also, um, all of these movies seem to have like some degree of social relevance, so I think that's not necessarily a tiebreaker, but people really really love It Was Just an Accident. It's got a firm release date. I don't know that No Other Choice does yet. Um but I'm sure it will because, it's got enough buzz that they're going to want to get it out and contending for awards. could they say, we've got we've got our contenders this year already, let's push it to next year? I guess they could, but usually it doesn't. They won't do that with a movie that's this buzzed about. Usually that's reserved for like you know showing up that happened too, and that got good reviews, but then was sort of punted to the following year. Hitman, Netflix did that with Hitman as well, but they also had The Killer that year, and just two very similar types of movies that they didn't want to release at the same time. So I don't know.
Neon just did that with Life of Chuck. um,
Yeah.
wanted
Okay.
to
No Other
show.
Choice has a limited on December 25th, so it'll be like a late theatrical run, which can work for the Oscars. You get your movie out and then people start seeing it in January, and so it could, but it was just an accident is releasing earlier, so if it builds any sort of buzz around it, maybe they just say, okay, these are our two, um, and go with those. But
What are your
it
thoughts,
really is a
Raf?
toss up. Yeah.
I have no thoughts. I did overhear two guys at TIFF talking about interviewing Panahi, which sounded super interesting. And one of them said that Panahi was stating that he didn't see the film as being overtly political, or that he had no political intention making the film. But that has no relevance to our conversation whatsoever.
Interesting. I have a bit of a and maybe this is like completely out of left field. Maybe I just have a maybe it's a parasite effect, but I almost feel like is Park Chan Wook what where
Korean.
in Asia is he
Yeah.
from?
South Korea.
Okay, so it is Korean. So I almost feel like a little bit more accessibility to like the Korean movies, Korean film than Middle Eastern.
Hmm.
Which is maybe why I have No Other Choice slightly ahead, just because they're so close, and I feel like they only have one spot really to share. Um, and then that's just Park Chan Wook has got maybe a little more recognition in America probably
Hmm.
than Panahi coming in, but that doesn't affect the industry. I will say so in director, I have Paul Thomas Anderson and Chloe Zhao. I think they're non-negotiable. Joachim Trier, I don't see him missing because there's such a push to finally honor his work. And
Yeah.
then I think you have either Panahi or Park Chan Wook and Ryan Coogler is what I've currently got. But then you also got Josh Safdie on the bubble. Do you think there's a chance for Panahi and Park Chan Wook in director, or do you think that they have to both be in picture in order to have any shot of that?
You don't have enough white guys in director right now. I think there has to be you need at least three. You can't have PTA and Trier and that's it. That's and one of them is an international, a European white guy, not even an
Yeah.
American white guy. That's absurd. That's absolutely absurd, Jacob.
Well, it's well. I'll tell you what though, if Marty Supreme isn't like great, then I mean,
We'll see. Some people like the Smashing Machine. That's another really interesting one
he did
where,
win direction at Venice, Benny.
yeah, do we get both Safdies in over
Mm,
all of these other folks? Do we get both Safdies in over Kugler and Park Chan Wook and Panahi?
Gosh,
Um,
imagine that's
that
crazy.
seems more in line. We that seems crazy. We need white guys, Jacob.
Well,
We need white guys to be nominated for director.
I do think Sinners has such a big lead on Smashing Machine in terms of picture prospects. I'm just thinking in like terms of up high, ranking
yeah.
high for best picture. They could pull a stupid. You want to talk about white guys? They could pull a move that will piss all of us off and give it to what's his name, uh, Scott Cooper for Springsteen. You know,
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
the
Okay,
it's gonna have
the
to be
so
James Mangold effect.
at this point. At this point, if you got to give it to a white guy,
yeah.
white-ish, white. He's not white. Guillermo del Toro. I mean, somebody
Yeah. I think
going going down to scoop up Benny Safdie feels like crazy.
yeah. Who I'd have. So I think, you got the four movies we've talked about, and those feel like real strong directors to me. Um the Marty Supreme thing is interesting because I think people are really slotting it in because A24 doesn't have a whole lot else that they're running or that's popped yet. And that's fair, but also like Uncut Gems was very critically acclaimed, but did not get anything at the Oscars. And so I don't think you can say, okay, uh this is going to be the one that's broken through, particularly without a festival premiere and no one's really seen it yet, so we don't really know what it's going to be like. We need to wait to see the movie. um I think Yorgos might have a good shot. The Academy just really loves Yorgos. They nominated the heck out of Poor Things. Even if it seems like it's not as beloved as Poor Things, it'll probably get less nominations. I think he could still sneak out that fifth slot.
I don't know. Yeah, I think honestly, Raf made a joke about it, and again, this is not a white guy, but uh, John M. Chu. I don't think it's that crazy if for some reason, and I think it would be deserved if this movie is at a certain level because you know, and I think this too, and like a lot of people don't have Wicked for good in editing, but I think it's totally deserved if this movie's really good. Editing and directing musical of that caliber with Wicked, um, it's going to be that's a lot of work. The choreography, um, that's a lot. So yeah, John Chu, I think is an option, but I do think, I mean, right now, I think it's going to be those three: Joachim Trier, Chloe Zhao, Paul Thomas Anderson, and then I think Ryan Coogler gets in. Um, if the Josh Safdie is going to be what breaks the bank of the
Hmm.
director's race. I think is whether or not he gets in. If he doesn't get in, I think it's Ryan Coogler and either Park Chan Wook or Jafar Panahi. I think that's how it goes, and a lot of that depends on, again, if you have either no other choice or it was just an accident in Best Picture. It stands to reason that the director might follow that. So that's
Yeah.
currently where I'm sitting on that.
Yep.
Let's talk about
Does
another.
Does Catherine Bigelow count as a white guy because she makes such white guy movies?
Well, you know, that's a good point. Catherine Bigelow is definitely a dark horse to keep in mind, because if we're about to address Netflix, so this is a perfect segue. Um,
Also an Oscar darling, which I think is another thing that we
Yeah.
have to consider, right? So like we know that they typically nominate PTA. We know that they're a fan of Chloe's work. We know that they really like everything that Catherine Bigelow does, no matter how white guy mid it ends up being. We know that they like Yorgos, which is a big question mark. And we know that they don't like nominating people like Park Chan Wook for, because it, for whatever reason it might be, but we sort of know like who the favorites are and who um the folks who they maybe like don't lean towards. And I feel like especially with director it ends up being a lot of like repeat nominations, no matter what like the merits of the film's direction actually are year to year. Like it might be that Ryan Coogler, Panahi, Park Chan Wook are among the best directors that we've seen this year, but like don't get nominated because they're just like, well, we know Yorgos and we like him, so we'll nominate him again because he did something this year.
Yeah.
so one of their favorites to nominate and that they love so much is Guillermo del Toro. I don't think that they'll be putting him in director. I really would not expect that. I have been on a wild ride with Frankenstein over the festival season, which was my number one prediction in March. And it has been all over the place. The reaction to it at Venice was good, but not like great. and it stood to reason that it could fall out. But Jay Kelly's reaction at Venice was even worse. um, Jay Kelly did rebound a little bit at Telluride, and of course now Frankenstein rebounded in a huge way at TIFF, placing second for People's Choice. It's got a 3.7 on Letterboxd. Meanwhile, House of Dynamite premiered at Venice and has like next level Metacritic reviews that suggest it's Netflix's top player. It's got a 3.4 on Letterboxd, so it's hard to like know how much to look at that discrepancy between the Metacritic and the Letterboxd and figure that one out. So it's hard to know what Netflix's main player is going to be. So it could be House of Dynamite because I'm stubborn. I have Frankenstein in my top 10 again. um, and also because Frankenstein is going to clean up in the crafts. I think Frankenstein is going to win production design. I think it's going to probably win hair and makeup. And I think it's going to win costume design. So I have it predicted for 3 wins, because I don't think they're going to want to give it to Wicked again. I think this is one of those situations where Wicked won costume design and production design last year, so they'll be fine with the nomination. Even if it's win competitive, they'll steer somewhere else. So I also think Frankenstein's going to be in score, not win competitive, but I think it might make the 5. And then honestly, they could even slip Guillermo del Toro into adapted screenplay. There might be room. There's some good reviews for Jacob Elordi as the creature. He could sneak in that 5th spot depending on the supporting actor race, or he could be left out. How are y'all feeling about Frankenstein versus like House of Dynamite versus Art? So there's some people that say Jay Kelly is really still the one that's going to play the Oscar sentiment. I just don't even know.
Yeah. Hard to know, except that Netflix frequently overperforms in nominations and then maybe underperforms in terms of awards. So it feels likely that something's going to be there. Um, I would lean like you towards Frankenstein because that feels like it has the strongest like resume in terms of what the Oscars like. I think Netflix thrillers like House of Dynamite seems to be like a political thriller sort of thing, and the thrillers on Netflix with it going to streaming can just sort of seem, I think, to people more just like, oh, that's just like content that everybody like watched and was entertained for an evening and then moved on. Whereas if it got a theatrical release, maybe it'd feel like a bigger event that could build something. But Frankenstein to me feels like it's got, enough like big ideas and the connection to cinema history and Del Toro attached to it where it could just sneak in there. Um and Jay Kelly, I just don't think it got strong enough reviews. Plus, Baumbach hasn't really done well with the Academy in the past, so I don't know that I see it.
I totally agree with both of you guys. I think Frankenstein would be the way to go. It seems like this might be a weaker year for Netflix, but saying that out loud, it was only a couple of years ago where like All Quiet on the Western Front got like 15 nominations for some reason. So maybe Frankenstein ends up being sort of similar to that, where it's getting a bunch of noms and not really winning stuff just because like we need something from Netflix because they do push things so hard for the Academy Awards. But like Jacob was saying, I don't necessarily think that House of Dynamite will end up being a player, because it's just like going straight to Netflix and people will just sort of like, it'll get lost in the shuffle there. And Jake Kelly, like I feel like for Noah Baumbach, it had to be Marriage Story. Like Marriage Story resonated with people so much and was like such a strong flick for Netflix, and also was in a year where there weren't a lot of other movies that were like smaller intense dramas like that it was competing with. Whereas this year, you already have things like Sentimental Value and Hamnet being players. So, like, there just might not be room for another sort of like small scale intense drama like that. But there is room for something a little bit bigger, like Frankenstein, to sort of like slot in. Even though it might be weird that there are two movies that are technically within the horror genre that are nominated for Best Picture. But, we've seen weirder. We've seen Stranger Things. Fuck, the joke was right there.
You got there. You got there eventually.
Okay, that needs to be clipped out for a short. We So not to derail this conversation, but I guess it's just funny because the way that both of you have spoken about All Quiet on the Western Front, I will just say I think it's one of the four like great movies from 2022. Uh, in a year with many many great movies, it's up there in my top four. But anyway,
Edward Berger will not be going 3 for 3 in terms of nominations. Ballad of a Small Player, bad movie.
Oh.
apparently
Very
though, Raph, would you agree? I don't think it's going to maybe place, but the cinematography I heard was quite good.
no. I can see
Is
why people
Colin
will say that.
Farrell good?
Colin Farrell is fun, Tilda Swinton is
Okay.
fun, but it very
Yeah.
much so looks and feels like Netflix content, and I mean that in the worst
Yeah.
way possible.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like good cinematography in that there are bright colors because Macau is a very bright location for a movie to be set. But in terms of it having good cinematography, I would say no. Maybe Oscar voters will be tricked by vibrant colors meaning good cinematography, but not in the same way that like Conclave had good, interesting cinematography that, you know, fed the story. But I wanted to, mention that while we're on the topic of Netflix.
So I think it will ultimately come down to once Netflix releases these movies, they may let the audience reaction drive some of this. But if they were just picking based on, again, Frankenstein already has a foothold with not just nominations but wins in the craft categories. So it's like they could put House of Dynamite in the top, but it's not going to get in a whole lot of other places. Maybe editing because it's a thriller in the way and some of the conceits of the movie. Maybe it could slip in, but there's not a whole lot of places for House of Dynamite to join in. But whereas if you put in Frankenstein, you're already building on that crafts bubble. You know, you can have
Yeah.
more of a focus on that. So just to recap some of what we've talked about, because I'm about to go into some disappointments before we kind of hash out this final.
One more Netflix thing, based on something that I saw in Toronto. Depending on how something like House of Dynamite and Jay Kelly, depending on how those perform, I think a few years ago we did see one of Ryan Johnson's scripts for one of these like Knives Out movies making Best Original Screenplay in terms of nominations. I don't know how strong or weak that category is supposed to be this year, but if it is on the weaker side, I do think that this could be another opportunity for him to like sneak in with a nomination again. It's not strong enough to actually win, but it could be a fifth if they want to just like give him another shout because
Yeah,
it's like a weaker
I
year
have.
for original screenplays.
Well, it's actually going to be adapted now because
Is it based on
It's
characters?
sequels. Yeah, it's the dumbest rule.
yeah, it's adapted from itself, from its own
Okay.
Benoit Blanc series. But I have it fifth. I have it currently fifth in adapted screenplay. So I definitely do think that's true that it has a likely spot. They're not going to campaign it for best picture and stuff because they did that with Glass Onion and it fell flat. They're not they're not going to try it again. Um, okay, so we all agree now on one battle after another. Hamnet, Sinners, and Sentimental Value. That's for sure.
Mhm.
We're going to talk about some of the unknowns, but just to briefly, we got Wicked. I've got Wicked for Good, Marty Supreme, No Other Choice. We talked about it was just an accident, possibly there. Springsteen, we all agree is currently in the cut. Frankenstein, we're all fairly in agreement on. Um, we got to address some of the. We've already dug the grave for some of Raf's early season picks, so we got to do the same. for me and Bryan. Although I don't know if Bryan has that many that have recently like hit rock bottom. I mean, Die My Love has been
Yeah,
kind
I
of
took
out
that
for a
out of there.
while.
Yeah.
I had three really three major defeats. Obviously, people who've been watching know that I was stumping for After the Hunt. Had so much faith in that movie based on the script. I had faith in Luca Guadagnino to pull it through. I thought Julie Roberts was like a lock to win to be nominated for Best Actress and be like really win competitive. She's probably not getting nominated now. The movie just completely tanked. I Her performance is still praised, but at this point, I think she's going down with the ship. I don't think I had Io Adebiri in supporting actress. I had Andrew Garfield in supporting actor. I believed heavily in that movie. Um, the other movie that was like an insane pick in my top 10 from March, Wizard of the Kremlin. Didn't even look like it was gonna come out. Didn't even look like it was gonna come out this year. But I was like, the urgency of this with the Russia-Ukraine war, they've got to release this year, right? Well, I was right about that. That was true. What I was wrong about was the movie being best picture quality. It's just fallen out of the race, and we can turn over conversation of Wizard of the Kremlin to Raf, who did get to see that while he was at TIFF, and you can confirm for us that that's not touching best picture.
Probably not touching Best Picture. I did have to check out a screening for you, Jacob, because that was your sort of dark horse at the beginning of the season. And I regret to inform you that it probably will not be a player. I don't even think, well, no, it definitely can't be a player in foreign language film because it is in English. It's a French produced and made film about Russians in English, starring British and American actors. So it's a very, very, very weird project. Depending on how thin the supporting actor category is this year, there is some potential for Jude Law to sneak in for his performance as Putin, because we know that the Academy likes performances that just boil down to like, ooh, you're imitating a real life person who we know, even if the performance itself doesn't actually have like that much meat on the bones. We saw that last year with The Apprentice, where it's like, why is this movie getting nominations? It's just like Sebastian Stan doing a Donald Trump impression. So yeah, it might get nominated for that, but in terms of like best picture, I don't think that the quality of the film necessarily lives up to the hype. So we will have to dig that grave for that film for you.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, another weird thing about it is it's in English and they're speaking with so what Paul Dano has a Cockney accent.
Paul
No,
Dano has a
sorry,
posh
he has the posh
accent,
accent.
and
Putin has the Cockney accent because it's meant to reflect their backgrounds, their cultural status in Russia in an English way, which is an interesting idea, but I don't think a lot of people really vibed with it.
an interesting
So
idea coming from a Frenchman.
right, so that is what it was, and then
But I
the
did get to
other
see Paul Dano at the Q&A, which was cool.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice. Um, so the other pick that really was looking good up until TIFF was my March pick of Rental Family, which I picked out as Searchlight's like horse, and it was. And up until TIFF, everybody was like, "This is pretty much in." Like everybody's like, "Yeah," and then it premiered, and it's a good film according to everybody, and it's kind of not getting in. I mean, it didn't place in people's choice. Could it still get in technically? Probably. It's probably still in the top 15 maybe, but it would take some movies going down to sneak in probably. And could Brendan Fraser still get an actor? Probably, maybe, but he's probably in the 6th or 7th slot for me now. Um, Akira Imoto in supporting actor. I just don't see it. I think that movie needed to be in Best Picture for him to get in. So it's really just I don't know if Rendell Family will get nominated at all. Um, So Rental Family kind of just dropped out. Just some other festival options to plug in. We did get to see Begonia. Our reviews have come out for Begonia, and they're pretty good. I'm really excited about the film based on the reactions, but I'm feeling that it's not gonna make it into the Best Picture 10 right now. I It is on the bubble though for that 10th spot, I would say. What are you thinking, Brian?
Yeah, I have it as in right now, but I agree that it's on the bubble.
What's your reaction to the reviews of it, Raf?
It seems like a bubble movie. I selfishly want it to get in because I want my other crazy prediction of Stavi getting a nomination for Best Supporting Actor to come true because I think that that would be the funniest thing in the world. It unfortunately won't come down to Stavi versus ASAP Rocky, which was my initial hope because highest to lowest is not going to be a player in any way, shape, or form. But there's still hope for our boy Stavi.
Well, let's the other movie that had some buzz going in as a potential Best Picture pickup was The Testament of Anne Lee, by Mona Fastful, wife of Brady Corbett, who just obviously was very close to winning Best Picture with The Brutalist. Um, the reactions to that movie have been interesting. It seems too divisive to me to get into the Best Picture 10 unless there's some fallout. Is that how you guys see it?
Yeah, I think, I mean, that kind of seems in line with the kinds of films that the two of them tend to make. I think The Brutalist was really an outlier where it was something that a lot of people were able to sort of latch onto. But I don't think that that's like really par for the course for Mona and is it Brody or Brady?
Uh, Brady, I think.
Yeah, Brady Corbet.
Um, so another issue with it currently, although it's still got time, um, it doesn't have a distributor currently.
Yeah,
It
you
it
know,
hasn't been snatched up immediately, so I don't know. Some people think Searchlight will snatch it up because of Rental Family kind of flopping, but honestly, I'm not sure that Testament of Anne Lee is a stronger Best Picture contender than Rental Family. So I don't really know. I could
I think it could. It feels like stock is slightly up from it premiering, and I think I saw more positive reviews for it, and seems to be doing something like new and different in a way that's interesting. So yeah, it's just late in the year to be finding a distributor and then getting a campaign together. But like we've said, you've got several of these focus, even A24, if they decide we want something that's a little bit more like The Brutalist from last year, let's pick this up and run it,
yeah, I
something like
think,
that could
I
happen.
think we could even see A24 Neon pick it up for next year and
Yeah.
maybe see if it can make some waves because it feels like it's on brand with them. When you do Rental Family versus Testament of Anne Lee, it's like you have one that might be a 7 on average that's divisive with, like, lots of 10s, but lots of 3s, and then you have Rental Family, which is just, like, a solid 7 from everybody. It's like they
Mhm.
both kinda come out to 7, so it's like, what do what's really the difference? Like, there's definitely more high-end love for Testament of Anne Lee, but there's also people who, like, really didn't vibe with it, whereas Rental Family, everybody's just like, "Yeah, it's good." Rental
Yeah.
Family can still make it in. Also, Searchlight has Is This Thing On with, Bradley Cooper and Will Arnett. Um, Laura
Is the
Dern.
Springsteen movie not Searchlight? That just feels like the most Searchlight movie ever made.
No, 20th Century.
Okay, that also checks out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but let's talk real quick about some of the big players that are left outstanding. We've already talked a little bit about Marty Supreme So let's just go ahead and get it fully fleshed out here. It's probably the biggest unknown in this race because so many people have so much faith in it. The Smashing Machine does not, to me, sound like if Marty Supreme flops, you can just substitute in the Smashing Machine. The performances are getting pretty good reviews to the point where they
Yeah,
may
acting.
get
Yeah.
in, but the movie overall doesn't seem like it's gonna really fly. So A24, everything is on Marty Supreme right now. And of course, Timothy Chalamet, the Golden Boy. People just imagine he's going to get on Best Actor, but I've been cautious about this movie all season. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a kind of strange comedy sports biopic about a ping pong player. So, and the trailer didn't like completely sell me on like this is going to be so Oscar like contingent. And now that can totally change. I'm rooting for it because I'm an A24 fan. I'm a Timothy Chalamet fan. Hopefully, it'll be great. What are your expectations for Marty Supreme right now, guys?
It's weird that it didn't premiere at a festival because Uncut Gems did. Um, I don't know. A24, there was some buzz about them being like, oh, we want to do like big event movies. We don't want to be like the awards people anymore. And they have sort of built their own brand, sort of thing. So maybe they just don't really care so much about the awards and running them. Maybe they don't need a contender every year. Maybe they just want, to create their own cult of people who go and see their movies. So I don't know. If the movie gets great reviews and it's hitting at the right time to get all of the nominations that people are predicting for it, but yeah, just we haven't seen it. So maybe cool your jets a little bit, people.
I'm still excited for it as a movie. I do think that Timothy Chalamet is probably the closest thing that we have right now to a movie star. And I think that he has like a wide range. He can do Dune, he can do the Wonka movie, he can do that musical, but he can also give you like a really good, meaty Oscar performance. I don't know that that's what we're going to get out of Marty Supreme. It also seems like the Safdies and their sensibilities are such a mystery right now and have been a mystery. Obviously, Uncut Gems was great, but got no Oscar love. It seems like reviews are all over the place for the Smashing Machine. We also have the unknown of like which Safdie brother is the one who has the juice. Do they both have the juice? Are they both just like super weirdos? Can they make a good movie on their own? We don't know. It is like you guys are saying, this movie is a complete unknown at this point in time. So it's going to be an interesting one to see like how it plays out. Are they just banking? It could be another movie that's banking on, the distributor's banking on, we will do a Christmas time release so that it's top of mind for Oscar voters once we get to that time, and completely falls flat, a la Babylon or, something like that, where it just like totally misses the mark and we don't know anything about it until it comes and falls flat, or it'll come around and maybe knock everyone's socks off, or somewhere in the middle. It's so unclear what the deal is going to be with this movie.
I think it's a shame too because it's coming out. What like is coming? Is it coming out on Christmas?
Christmas. Yeah.
Um, so there's no fallback. There's no way for A24 to um change direction if it comes out. I mean, they're really putting full faith in it. A24 has another great movie that came out this year. Sorry Baby, we talked about it. After The Hunt is out, you could have a movie that people feel addresses that in a much better way, the same kind of topic. But I don't there's no way left for A24 to campaign that as a fill-in slot if Marty Supreme misses. So it's really Marty Supreme or bust, and I think that opens up another wild card slot in the Oscar in the Best Picture race. Another big unknown. It'll come out a little bit earlier, so we'll is Wicked for Good. We've talked about that all season. I think all three of us had Wicked for Good, in our nominations. I think we all still expect it to be right now. If John M. Chu, if he pulls it off and improves on the original second act of the musical production, I think all will be well. I think some people have like Jonathan Bailey in supporting actor. I'm not going to put that in until I see the movie. But I think Cynthia Erivo is locked in for lead actress unless something goes horribly awry. I think Ariana Grande is still the leading choice for supporting actress until further notice. It's going to have two songs most likely because it has two new original songs. I think it's eligible for score. People, it would its eligibility for score would depend on how much of the first movie it reuses. But there's going to be every song in this movie, while not original to the stage production, will be original to film. So that helps its percentage chances. And then any changes in the score in between the songs is also going to be eligible. So I think it'll be eligible, and it's going to be hard to deny this score. Um, I think it's going to win for song as well. So it's a. I actually have an award expert. This is going to be my top nominated movie right now. I currently have it sitting at 13 nominations. It could go down to 12, and if it goes down to 12, it would tie with Sinners. I think Sinners is going to also get 12 nominations. It's really got a lot to do with song and score because not all of these other movies have that ability, particularly song. Like without the songs, Wicked would be 11 max, but you tack on two songs to it, and so it goes to 13. It's wild, but it is what it is. It could easily miss out on some of those, like editing. It could be left out of editing easily. I don't have it in cinematography, but it's going to get production design, costume design, hair and makeup,
Yeah.
Arrivo, Grande. It could sneak into adapted screenplay, probably not. John M. Chu, we said, could sneak into director, probably not. But those are on top of the 13 that I've already listed, so that's probably probably not
Yeah.
going to happen. I already don't have those. So it seems like a juggernaut to me. I mean, do y'all do you think are y'all so confident that it's not going to face plant and miss?
It I mean, if it's bad, it could still do well at the box office, but then the Oscars, it just sort of fizzles out. Um, so I think your prediction is probably more likely. It did very well on nominations last time, and that was before it had original songs. So I think we're probably headed towards lots of nominations uh, for Wicked.
And I think casting, like some people have said, well, will they give it a casting nomination because technically they didn't have to do the casting for this movie, but they cast them together, and casting wasn't an award last year. I think it'll get in for casting
Yeah.
because the casting is that good. So I think it's going to be, and all these movies were filmed back to back, so it's really hard to believe that they made a really really strong Best Picture contender movie last year, and then turned around and filmed the second movie, and it was just like garbage, or just not to the level. But the script could have problems. We'll just have to see. It's really going to depend on the script for me. Um, Speaking of script, the other big question mark in this race is the other movie that we all three have had since the beginning, which is Avatar: Fire and Ash. Um, I have it back in. I've had it out for the longest time. I actually moved it out because I think it's really easy. I think it'd be really easy for the Academy to exclude the third Avatar movie from the 10 if there were like enough strong contenders. But enough room has opened up, and I think Avatar is back on the bubble until further notice. And there's always the danger if Avatar ever gets a screenplay that is like above average, because let's face it, the first two movies, the screenplays have not been very great at all. So if Avatar: Fire and Ash suddenly has a good screenplay, who knows, this movie could raise up from number 10 to being like a legitimate top 5 contender because it's really just a matter of story that's the problem. And so the production of it is so freaking good. How are you going to deny it if the story provides, because if the script is good, there's room for those performances to be really good. Maybe not so much with Sam Worthington. Look, I don't even know. This movie could put Neytiri as the lead. I don't know that. Probably not. I'm not making that prediction.
Who?
Neytiri, Zoe Saldana's character.
I was just making a joke about not remembering any of the
Oh yeah,
characters in Avatar.
true. But listen too. Also, I think lead actress is getting crowded enough now. Zoe Saldana obviously just got an award, but if could there be room for Zoe Saldana to get into a supporting actress nomination for her work in Avatar?
We know the Oscars like to repeat, and she just won. So it's a lot easier to get to get another nomination once you already have won the statue.
I think that the some of the seeds that were sown in Way of Water for that character in terms of like the complications with the son of the colonel or whatever and the difficulties that create potential like gold for like to mine in the sequel. So I don't know if this movie's going to do that. But if they did, I could see Zoe Saldana slipping in to supporting actress, but that's just a wild card. I guess. Do y'all? I mean, we all I think kind of have a bubble. None of us are probably really confident in those final slots, but currently, is Avatar still on your still in?
I think so. It This Avatar becomes harder than the first two Avatars to sort of gauge, because I do think that there are a lot of other big blockbustery type movies that are already taking up slots. Like, we're all expecting Sinners to be a player. We're sort of all expecting Frankenstein to be a player, which like is a big genre film. One Battle
Yeah.
After Another is more of a large scale film than what we're used to from PTA. So then Wicked is another big, you know, blockbustery type movie. Are we expecting half of the Oscar Best Picture nominations to be like big blockbustery type movies?
There's a lot of
So
CGI for the Oscars.
a
Yeah,
lot of
a lot of it.
CGI.
Um,
So
it could, yeah. I think it has probably, if you were to predict the enthusiasm for different movies, because it is sort of the third one, there's been a gap, but less of a gap between the second and third than there was between the first and second. And then you've got Wicked still like riding the wave of enthusiasm from last year. uh it could, and we already know that Sinners has the performance and the enthusiasm and that the movie is good. um this is a bubble movie for me. I still have it in. I think it's just going to be sort of a blockbuster heavy year. uh but we have to see it first.
it's hard to bet against Cameron, though.
It's hard, yeah.
As much as I want to discount it, it's really hard to bet against him. And I think Avatar 2 proved that. I kind of wrote off Avatar 2. I was like, it's, whatever. We did it once. This isn't all that exciting. And then it made a bazillion dollars. And everyone and their mother was like, yes, this is one of the coolest movies I've ever seen. Kind of
Mhm.
similar to how I felt about Wicked, where I was like, I'm not too
Yeah.
crazy about this. But it's hard to bet against Cameron. It's hard to bet against Wicked,
Yeah.
and things like that. So we shall see.
The effects
So
are
just
gonna be incredible, and people are gonna rave about them, and it'll definitely clean up some technicals, no matter what.
So I'm gonna go over Best Picture real quick, and we're gonna hit a couple of other like category some things, just some bounce around. Um, so again, I think we've already settled that all three of us agree on the top four right now being One Battle After Another, Hamnet, Sinners, Sentimental Value. Currently, we all agree that Wicked for Good is in until further notice. That like if it's
I
bad,
hope it's not.
I really hope it's good. Um,
I hope it's not in. I finally saw the first one, and oof, that movie is so mid. I don't get it. I don't get why people rave about it, but that's a discussion for another day.
that's fine. And for clarity, I really enjoyed the first one. So, um, you know, after Wicked for Good, I would say it seems like for me and for both of you guys, Springsteen feels like maybe one of the safer choices.
Yes.
And then next I have personally, and this could open up and both they could both be in. Personally, I have then a slot for a Neon movie, which is either No Other Choice or it was just an accident. And then I have a slot for a Netflix movie, which I think is either Frankenstein or House of Dynamite. And then I have a slot reserved for Marty Supreme until further notice. And then I have a slot that's like a wild card slot that I currently have filled with Avatar. But I think right on the bubble, I already mentioned it was just an accident. Could be the Neon movie plugged in for No Other Choice. House of Dynamite could be the Netflix movie. Bugonia could be like if Avatar, if that's just like kind of mid. If the screenplay doesn't do anything, then Bugonia could jump in. If Marty Supreme falls out, they could jump in. Testament of Anne Lee could get in there. Rental Family is still like a pleasant movie, even though it didn't place at TIFF. Like it could still jump in there. Or maybe two Netflix movies get in. Maybe House of Dynamite and Frankenstein are in. Or maybe three Neon movies are in, and both it was just an accident and no other choice get in. After that, I'm running out of like things to plug in there. I don't think Smashing Machine has a chance. Ballad of a Small Player doesn't have a chance. Um, I don't really see. I mean, Jay Kelly would be one of the Netflix slots if anything, but I'm just not feeling it. I do have Adam Sandler and supporting actor still because I think some people might just like to see that happen, and it's not that strong of a category. Um, a Big Bold Beautiful Journey is definitely out. Just got like mid reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't. Is there any other movies that we haven't mentioned that could even fill the Best Picture slot?
No, I think it's narrowing down. It tends to do that this time of year, and I think you got like 13 or 14 real strong contenders.
I
I
think
think
as
the
you,
cool thing about your list, oftentimes of the 10 movies, there's usually about like 3 to 4 like mid to low tier movies that end up making it in. And I think of your list, it seems like there's mostly like it's like 80% movies that sound like they are going to be actually pretty really good once people actually see them. And like maybe Wicked and potentially Avatar are the only ones that will like maybe amongst the three of us or like amongst as Bryan
Springsteen, you got Springsteen
Springsteen.
as
Forgot
well.
about
Yeah.
Springsteen. That's the other one. Yeah,
Still,
those
like I get what you're saying, Raf, because the highs are so high on the ones that we're expecting to be nominated. Like this is going to be a good year
we're not going to
for
have an Amelia
Oscar
Perez. We're
nominations.
not going to
Yeah.
have Green Book this year, which is, that's exciting. That's encouraging for
Yeah.
sure.
that's
Yeah.
nice, and really too. I mean, just in terms of movie quality this year, some of them don't appear on the Oscars, but One Battle After Another, if it lives up to these reactions, Hamnet, we've already seen Sinners. Sentimental value. We're eating pretty well this year, I think. I didn't really like the last 2 years. I enjoyed a lot of those movies. Obviously, like The Substance, very cool. Anora was great. Oppenheimer, I really liked. I didn't love Killers and Barbie as much. I liked them. I know Raph really enjoys both of those movies a lot. Um,
I enjoy those movies too, Raf. They're
and
great.
Bryan, I enjoy them a lot. I just had a little bit of a issue with them, but but I really think this is a strong year. Hopping down to song. So the Academy Awards have no reason, no excuse to not be fun as hell this year. Like you have two original songs from Wicked that we just assume are going to be bangers. And then you have I Lied to You from Sinners, which has already burned the barn down in the movie and then should also do the same thing at the Oscars. And we have K-pop Demon Hunters getting golden and um Sinners maybe Diane Warren is probably going to be the fifth song because well, of course. But
Mhm.
wouldn't it be
Classic.
great if Sinners got a second song in? But but, you know, and just in terms of music, like, there's so much they could do with this Oscars. They did it a little differently last year where they didn't do every song, but there's just so much that they could do. It should be really exciting. Visual effects has got some movies that we didn't talk about. I think, you know, Avatar, everyone assumes Avatar will win that because that's what Avatar does. But you also have F1 probably slips in there. Superman, Fantastic Four. Hooray for those movies getting Oscar nominations. Makeup and
Let's just.
hairstyle,
I'm just happy that F1 is probably not going to be nominated for Best Picture.
same.
Like there are other years where that movie is in the top 10, and I get that people like it, but like we can do without those movies.
Yeah.
So we're one step closer. We got F1 out. Next year we'll get something like Springsteen out, and then we'll just keep moving on up from there.
I really enjoyed F1, and no business being anywhere near Best Picture. Like any of these movies, Begonia, Anley, Smashing Machine, put any of those in there over F1. I haven't even seen Smashing Machine. Um, Speaking of Smashing Machine, we'll probably get in hair and makeup just for The Rock. You
But
you think? I mean,
early contender for best wig of the year. I've yet to
other
see a
than
better
that,
wig.
it's Frankenstein, Wicked, Sinners, Hamnet. I think stuff like that. Costume design is those same four. Production design is those same four plus Avatar. You know, those craft categories are going to be so dominated by Frankenstein, Wicked, Sinners, and Hamnet. I think. Um, I just feel like there's going to be a lot of love for that. I have currently one battle after another for editing. I think that's a hard category to predict who's going to win. It seems like there's really no rhyme or reason, and sometimes it just pairs with picture. So, um, and
It
then
used to
animated
be that
feature.
that was like the indication for best picture. Like whatever won best editing was going to win best picture. I think that changed in the last like 10 to 15 years, but you were like totally able to track it back in the day.
It's so hard
So
to even.
still on that, Raf, if you do not get nominated for best editing, you are very unlikely to win best picture. So those indicate like the top 5 generally. And I think still it's been like very, very rare for something that wasn't nominated for best editing to win best picture.
Which is so funny. I mean, yeah, editing is like a really, really important art form within filmmaking. And there are movies that are not the best movies ever, but have like spectacular editing. But you know,
And
Yeah, it's all rising tide raises all ships sort of thing
it's one of
on
those
yeah,
that
weird
one.
things
But
too, where like a movie like One Battle After Another, you could expect to have like lots of editing because it's more punchy versus like Hamnet. Like considering some of these movies, how much editing there is, I feel like Hamlet's going to be a lot of longer takes and a lot more sitting with things. So I would think, you know, that probably wouldn't be as strong of an editing contender. But because it's so correlating with Best Picture, it maybe it's just in there, like number one or number two. Um, Cinematography is going to be insane because apparently, I mean, the cinematography in the trailer just from Hamnet looks beautiful, and everyone says It's like super arresting. One battle after another is getting strong raves. Frankenstein is got clear shot. Darius Kanji is a cinematographer on Marty Supreme, so a lot of people enjoy his work. That could work. And then of course you got Sinners, which had some great work in it. In particular, really the only other category that makes sense to talk about is animated feature, which has been a really strange ride this year.
Not documentary short.
Weird. Yeah.
Documentary short, I don't even I don't even know what's in there. Um, uh, so K-pop Demon Hunters is winning animated feature. Is there any disagreement?
Yeah.
I
Zootopia needs to come out, but you're probably right. Yeah.
I mean, I I have completely gone from K-pop Demon Hunters could slide in to it's winning. It's got so much
It's
attention.
it's a phenomenon. Yeah, it's riding the wave right now.
Yeah, the wave is
Definitely.
very strong.
Yeah.
If it does win, friend of the canon, David Cohan, would become a 2-time Oscar winner, or maybe 3-time,
Mm.
because I think he worked on both Spider Verse movies and he worked on K-pop Demon Hunters. So
Yeah.
he would, yeah, you know,
It's good, y'all. Do y'all like it? I thought it was great.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it yet?
I
Check it
gotta
out.
watch it. I gotta
It's
check it
worth
out.
seeing.
I thought it
It's
Yeah,
was
worth seeing.
very catchy and fun. I don't think all of its themes like coalesce together that well, but you can kind of ignore that because it's
See,
so
that's where you're wrong.
um Zootopia 2 Zootopia 2 is the other challenger for animated feature, and then the last 3 is like this movie Arco that was at Cannes, about like I don't even know, it's got something to do with rainbows. And like the little Amelie or the character
Mhm.
of the rain or something that was at Cannes. These really strange, like smaller movies, but apparently pretty good. I really liked Lost in Starlight from Netflix. Did either of you ever? Y'all probably didn't watch
Mm-mm.
that. It's not getting seen enough. I think it's maybe stronger slightly than K-pop Demon Hunters in terms of like overall like story, and it's got like a really great letterbox rating, but no one's watching it. So um I still think Elio might just slip in. Some people think some other small movie will slip in because Elio is so mid, but it's Pixar and it's just so weak. I can't. It's hard to see it slipping out at this point.
You're right, and just why do we need to keep awarding? I guess it's a weak year, and that's probably why.
I
But
mean, it
like,
really
I'm
is.
still just mad at Elemental getting in there. I haven't seen Elio yet. I probably won't.
It's pretty mid. Um, International feature is funny because it's going to be. I thought it was going to be all neon, just 5 neon movies, but I think it looks like the voice of Hind Rajab is going to probably be in because it's been selected by Tunisia and it had such a huge reaction at Venice.
Yeah, that was very talked about.
It's it would if it wasn't so politically complicated, it would we would probably be talking about it as a best picture potential, but I think
And
it's
like from lots of people talking about it from a like ethics of filmmaking perspective because it uses the actual audio from this incident in the film. Um and I don't want to give away too much about it, but very if folks are interested, go look it up.
yeah, that is an interesting point, and I hearing what it is, I think it's great. I think it's so smart and such a good I think it's a totally ethical way to approach it and make sense because even the parts that are portrayed by actors are still pretty I think my understanding is they're based a lot on transcripts.
Yeah.
So it's like it's docu-fiction.
Yeah, as someone who's interested in that sort of hybrid approach, and there's a history of that in film, I'm very interested to see what it is, but I am going in with a bit of trepidation of like, how will this work, and will they pull it off in like a respectful way, because that's pretty intense.
I'm just thinking about. Do you think anyone was voice of Henry Job was at Venice? It technically was at TIFF, technically, but it barely had any showings. Um, they probably didn't align, but could you imagine someone going into a double feature of that and Hamnet? Just talk
Yeah.
about like an emotionally devastating day.
I think
That
it
would
did
be
align because I think most of those I think the screenings were in the morning. The few that there were.
Hmm.
like I just can't imagine getting out of Hamnet, being emotionally devastated, and then walking into this movie. Um, yes, that's really it. That's the Oscars conversation. Um, I have Jeremy Strong and Jacob Elordi in supporting actor. I have both The Rock and Emily Blunt getting in for Smashing Machine right now. Both of them are at number 5 though in their categories because it's not in Best Picture. I think it's going to be hard, not necessarily for the Academy, but I feel like there's going to be a populist push for The Rock because of his transformation and because it's a good enough performance. I feel like it's going to be kind of hard to keep him out. And I have Timothy Chalamet,
What's the transformation from wrestler to MMA
UFC
fighter?
fighter.
Seems like that's like
It's
going
the
from like a European soccer player to an American soccer player. That's like
it's
Messi's
the
transition. Is it the
classic
wig? Is it? It's
the,
the wig, right?
the
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 wig.
wig
wig.
Yeah,
deserves to be nominated for best supporting actor.
it's the
That's what
wig
they should do.
and
That's what the Academy should do.
the makeup and a little bit of the performance transformation because The Rock is so stereotypically like loud and brash, and this is like such a different kind of approach for him.
He goes from being a brand to being someone who like attempts acting.
Yeah,
That's the
right.
transformation.
Correct. And I think for the layperson, it depends though because they might not like the movie that much. But it's like,
He's gonna win a Golden Globe.
yeah,
The
for sure.
Globes go for, yeah, they go for this sort of thing.
So, but y'all can comment on this if y'all want. I'll just go really quickly through. I have for actress, I have Jessie Buckley. We agree she's winning. Arrivo's in. Renata Reinsva is in probably. I guess Emma Stone is in lead. I'm putting her in because she's Emma Stone and she's apparently pretty good in Begonia. And then I just threw in Rose Byrne because for If I Had Legs I'd Kick You because she's getting enough talk and her movie's not as poisonous as After the Hunt.
I'm still holding my Jennifer Lawrence bags for Die My Love. I've taken it out of picture, but I think her performance got enough rave reviews that when it gets released, and she's got enough star power that it could slip in there.
And Amanda Seyfried for Testament of Anne Lee has been talked about.
Excited about that one.
If
Yeah.
she has, if it gets a distributor and it gets a push, she could get in. For actor, I have Paul Mescal, Leo, Timothy Chalamet, Jeremy Allen White, and The Rock. Is there anybody that y'all think Brendan Fraser or Jesse Plemons should be in there? That's who I have next on the bubble.
I love
Jesse
that it's going to come
Plemons.
down
Yeah.
to The Rock and Jeremy Allen White, though. It's going to be
Eh.
such a dog shit campaign season between the two of them. I can't wait for it.
I've got Plemons in there. We'll see, but that people were talking about that performance a lot.
It's one of
Yeah.
those tough things where it's like it so depends on what's in picture. Except The Rock's not going to be in picture, so you could easily swap him out for Jesse Plemons. So, or Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser could still just be loved enough to get in. It's not a bad performance. It's just not urgent, and he just won, so they could just be like, eh. Supporting actors, I have Ariana Grande, Tiana Taylor, Elle Fanning, Chase Infinity, and Emily Blunt. What do y'all think about Amy Madigan for Weapons? Have y'all seen Weapons?
Haven't seen it yet.
Unfortunately, have not
Really
seen it yet.
excited
Y'all
for
have
it.
Need
nothing
to
to
see
say
it.
about Amy Madigan because Amy Madigan is not even in the trailers. And I don't want to spoil anything, so we will just move right along. See
I
weapons as soon as you can, and
I don't think that pick is going to come to fruition though, Jacob. That seems like a
she's
pipe dream.
she's an interesting she's an interesting character for sure. She'll probably make Screen Age Wasteland characters of the year, I
Hmm.
will say.
Yeah.
I totally expect her character to make our top 10 characters, but supporting actress at the Oscars, I just don't know. Also, I have Inga Ibsdottir Lilius, whose name I have not been able to get for the whole runtime, from Sentimental Value on the Bubble. Um, and I don't think Emma Stone's going supporting. Obviously, she goes supporting, she gets into there. And that opens up a lead actress spot. So, supporting actor, I have Sean Penn, uh, Stellan Skarsgård, Adam Sandler, Jeremy Strong, and Jacob Elordi. Do y'all think Delroy Lindo?
No. Similar to the weapons, I just don't think that we're going to do supporting performances for horror flicks.
Yeah. The
I
one
just think
I
that's such an ensemble movie. It's so hard to pick
Yeah.
and place.
I could see Miles Catan surprising if anything, because sometimes because there's so much energy and love for that performance, sometimes there are those like nice surprises on Oscar nominations morning of like, oh, they actually pulled it off, and that's sort of awesome. So, um, yeah,
I also
that
think
Yeah,
Lordy might get campaign for and lead
that's
based
a
on
good
things that I've heard.
question because apparently it kind of he takes over at some point a little bit, but he's also apparently not in it that much in the first hour. So that could also just lead to him not getting in anyway because he's so on the bubble they don't know where to put him and he just gets left out. Jacob Lordy is a tough one to decide anyway. But there's really not that many people I can think of for supporting actor. Like outside of those, I mean, God forbid we get two from Springsteen. you know, um, I
Jeff
don't know.
Goldblum and Wicked.
Well, that would be he would need a huge role. Jonathan Bailey is an option though. If but he's got to do a lot more. He was we have to address he was pretty close to supporting actor last time. So if he has a little bit more to do in a weak year, he could easily get it.
The Dog and Superman. There you go. There's your fifth.
Crypto.
Yeah.
There's so many people that we could just like stump for in these roles and like in these they're so far out. Um I mean Nicholas Holt was great as Lex Luthor. But
Mr. Wonderful and
that's
Marty Supreme.
a weirdly annoyingly potential truth. Like Mr.
Yeah.
Wonderful could be picked and that would be pretty horrible.
Mr. Wonderful, the dog from Superman, Stavi, ASAP Rocky, and The Rock's wig. Those are my five best supporting actors for this season.
We have we have some strange possibility. I mean, for a supporting actor, it's so wide open. Like, there's a couple of those that sound like jokes that almost could happen. Um, really, kind of a shame that like Eddington gets no love. Um, that like Pedro Pascal could have. Why Pedro Pascal could be supporting actor. Um, some of these other movies, or Pedro Pascal in Mysterious, or Pedro Pascal in Fantastic Four. um, you know, there was some fun. There were some fun performances this year that just won't get anywhere close because they're not in picture. Well, that's really the end of the conversation, guys. That's a pretty thorough look at where we're at right now. Um, I'm excited to start like a weekly pole position kind of back because now that we're in the thick of it, there's so much to discuss, especially as these movies filter down to us. Um, Raf, are you going to try and go to the New York Film Festival? Is that near enough to you where you could just
I
not
think
have
I'll maybe see some screenings. I'll have to I'll have to like buy tickets for. Woe is me. By the time I checked for press credentials, it was closed. so I might just go as a fan, but no plans as of yet, but we shall see.
Because I was going to say some of those movies from TIFF and things will trickle down and be available to you. I can't personally cannot wait to see Hamnet in like the end of January.
Yeah,
it,
it's gonna
it
be a
feels
while.
like in
Yeah.
Alabama. It might have a wide. It's supposed to have a wide release December 12th. Hopefully that like is wider than enough to maybe I'll just drive to Birmingham. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me. I don't know when our next podcast will be now that this was a big one. So much has been revealed over the past month, but I look forward to definitely the possibility of the Oscars live stream when the awards during the award show. That would be a lot of fun. And of course, we'll be back to talk about nominations as it gets really close to the wire. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for being here.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Sounds fun. Thanks.
All right. Catch us next time.
Matt.
Awesome.